Let's hop right into it. Tell us a little bit about Tackle. What's your elevator pitch? What's your corporate mission?
So Tackle is out to change the way that enterprises sell or enterprises buy software in the modern cloud world. So we want to help software companies easily sell their software through these big cloud channels. Make it simple for buyers to procure that software, and really make it as easy as going on Amazon.com to buy socks. It should be that simple to go and buy software. And so that's what we've set out to do.
You guys came storming out the gates several months ago with a massive Series A raise from blue chip investors, most notably Bessemer Venture Partners. Tell us a little bit about that. How do you plan to spend the capital? Which departments are recruiting? And most importantly, what kind of individuals should be flocking towards you to jump aboard the ship?
Yeah, the investment, so our Series A we closed in June, and really that investment's to continue to lean into where we've been focused. And we're an extremely customer-focused company, and our customers are software companies. So we want to continue to build the teams that support our customers. So we're hiring a lot in our customer journey team, our go-to-market organization. But really, everything we do for our customers is driven by our product. And our product, we're hiring a lot in our product organization, both product management and engineering resources. And then as we're scaling further, we continue to kind of round out the corporate functions. The team of tacklers is about 52 folks today. And we're growing in really across the board, finance and marketing and demand gen. So I'd say you'll see a lot more hires from us as we continue this year and look to scale next year. And if you're inspired by helping change the way software is either sold or bought, definitely reach out.
Yeah, definitely. And as the leader of the product and engineering teams, just to echo what John said, we're really scaling out those teams fast. We're solving really interesting problems. We have a completely serverless stack that runs out inside of AWS infrastructure. We have some that's spread across Azure and GCP. So a really interesting opportunity to work with those cloud providers. We don't run any servers anywhere. We use a combination of Lambda and Fargate and many other serverless technologies to provide a really robust solution for our customers.
That's fantastic. And as a remote first business, I think I recall in one of our early discussions, maybe your co-founder Dylan is he based up in Driggs? Yeah. Is that right?
Or Riggins.
Riggins.
He's in Riggins today. I work out of McCall. We both kind of circle back to Boise as our headquarters, but yeah, we're both from Idaho, and we like to support the local community.
Well, you've got John over in New York, right, John?
Right.
Yeah, I'm in the other B town of cloud, which is Buffalo, New York. So, and I think, the remote first for Tackle is really awesome. Like Dylan, Brian, myself, we all worked for either Bay Area or New York or Boston-based tech companies for our whole career. And, what that meant was we spent a lot of time on airplanes flying around or flying to headquarters. And honestly, just such an unproductive way to spend time. And, when Dylan and Brian founded the company, they're like, hey, we really, this remote thing is finally real. And companies like GitLab are publishing their playbooks, and the tools with Zoom and Slack are becoming much more prevalent. We think we can really build this company remote. And I don't think any of us expected to have building a remote company be to avoid a pandemic, but it was really interesting to get the foundation set to scale through that time without really any disruption, because we had thoughtfully worked through a lot of the things that you need to think about when you're setting up and building a remote company and culture. So it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I got to say, of all the 4 options we have on the table, Salt Lake included, where I'm at, I wish I was up in McCall. I love it up there. We spent summers there growing up, and man, that's just a special place. I'm really jealous. Well, how do you see that developing? Obviously, remote first and remote for the foreseeable future. Does it continue that way? Do you start seeing some pockets of employees? Do you maybe have an eventual headquarters? How, we're all trying to navigate this. How do you see things developing at Tackle?
Well, we've had a few natural pockets develop. in kind of unplanned and interesting ways. As we were just out searching for the best talent and the best people, we actually found that there's quite a few people around the Denver Boulder area who now work at Tackle, and so that's become a natural pocket. We had a few people who just happened to join around Atlanta. And so they all started getting together, meeting up in person when they could, and that became a natural pocket. And Boise, of course, it's been really fun to see because as we've hired people from across the country, hired people from Texas or New York or wherever, they've come to offsites in Boise when we were getting the team together, and they liked it so much they've ended up moving here. So we've attracted great employees from outside the state to move to Boise, even though we're a remote company. They liked Idaho, they liked the lifestyle here, and they picked up and moved. So that's been awesome to see as well. And so I think that'll continue to happen. We're not necessarily planning it out strategically, but we're just kind of allowing these natural pockets to develop. And we hope that once the pandemic clears up and we can actually start getting together again, that we can continue to foster these smaller communities across the country.
And I don't think, maybe just to add on to that, I don't think you'll ever see Tackle have a big headquarters in any one of those places. I mean, really, one of the cultural tenets, and this has been a bit of a struggle through the pandemic, was, we would intentionally organize company offsites. And, we're not saying that remote means remote at all times. There's no doubt a level of in-person interaction that really helps you form as a team. But instead of investing those dollars in real estate where people maybe would begrudgingly go, we'd rather invest those dollars in experiences. And, offsites were an amazing experience. And it's something I know our entire team is missing this year and can't wait for the day for us to be able to get back together in that way. I do envision someday at some scale, you could see an office in a clustered location being a benefit. But I also think you'll see the nature of that office be very different. You're hearing this from, the big tech companies who are starting to default to remote, and they're saying we're going to re-envision our office space to be more of a destination versus a work location. And I could see that happening where, maybe we want to do offsites and we want to do them in our own destination location. But I think that'll be more a futuristic thing for us.
Yeah, definitely. When we were starting Tackle, we designed it to be remote from the beginning, and we would talk to investors or advisors, and they'd say, "Oh, that seems smart. You're being remote first so that you can save money." And it's actually counterintuitive, but that wasn't our plan. It's like, no, actually, we want to spend the same amount of money. We want to be able to invest in giving people a great office. In their homes or wherever they want to work from. We want to have these what we call offsites where we bring everybody together in fun locations and get the company together. And so over time, we view it as not a cost saving measure. We view it as just like an alternative work style.
We're scratching the surface at some just fascinating trends around just work culture in general. And you've mentioned some of the things that have worked at Tackle around corporate offsites and meetups. What else have you seen to work? And frankly, I'm getting at, this is a common question that we get as a firm from portfolio companies is how do you keep that camaraderie up? How do you build it, particularly with new hires in this ecosystem?
Well, it's tough. It's something that we've had to work at. We have to be really intentional about the way that we bring people together and the way that we create a culture as leaders of the company. And so we do a lot of things where for example, we have lightning talks where anybody can talk for 5 minutes about anything, about whether it's tuning their bikes or their hobby of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, whatever it might be. They can spend 5 minutes and everybody else can kind of watch and get to know each other. And that takes time out of the day. We've got to set aside an hour a week for that. But we like to foster that, and we like to encourage people to even have those kinds of discussions on their own. We have a bot that runs in our Slack channel that randomly pairs people together every week. So you'll get a partner, and then you schedule time for a one-on-one with them just to talk about anything, just life in general, not work related. And then that gives you a chance to really get to know somebody on a deep level. When you do those things, it does work. We had one new hire who was on for just a couple of weeks, and she said, "You know what? I feel like I know my coworkers at Tackle better than I knew my coworkers when I worked in the office." And John and I are like a high five, like, yeah, that's exactly what we want. That's what we want new hires to be saying. And so it's when the system works, it is pretty cool.
And I think so much of that is your leaders need to walk the walk. But like, I think so many companies have implemented digital infrastructure to try to complement their on-premise thinking. And that's a mistake, because you really need the digital infrastructure of your company to be the central nervous system of the company. And then if you still have locations, the locations complement your digital presence versus the opposite way around. And I think that our Slack is very, very vibrant and active, and everyone's participating. And it's not just the work participation, and transparency is a key kind of cultural value of the company, because when you operate remote, you have to be comfortable with transparency. And we have systems that are connected to Slack, and people know what's happening. People know what code's getting released. People know when we get a new customer deal. People know when a customer goes live. Like, everyone can see everything. But beyond that, there's this whole like personal substrate to that digital infrastructure where like we have channels in Slack. We have the push-up channel. We have the beer channel. We have the food channel. We have the wellness channel. We have the reading room, the mountain bike, pet zone. Like, and those are not just like novelty things on the wall. They're literally places people have daily conversations, and everyone in the company is active there. And I feel that same way. I feel closer. We had new hires join today, and we do a weekly all hands. We've done a weekly all hands really for the entire existence of the company. And it's a place for people to get to hear everything that happens in the company, but also get introduced. And I can't think of many companies I joined where the first week I got to show up and say hi to every employee in the company. Like, it's really kind of unusual, and I think gives you an opportunity to truly connect at a new level.
You mentioned a couple of things in there that are just fascinating to me. One of them is your use of technology and your deliberate use of technology. When you're talking about Slack and the various channels, and it's fascinating to me how ingrained that is in your culture. And as you think through those various platforms, what else would you point to as best practices for those of us that are adopting, the digital strategy and adapting to it?
Well, we've really, Slack is awesome. It has a really great purpose, and it's something that we lean on heavily. But we've also really started to foster and develop more asynchronous communication channels. And what I mean by that is there are products out there like Loom is one that's become very popular within our company. And what it does is it allows you to record a quick video on your laptop, and it has your face over the video. And so it's a way for you to describe something. Maybe you're working on, maybe it's a problem, maybe it's just an idea you want to get across, and then you can post that in Slack. And then when people have time, they can go out and watch your 30-second, 1 minute video. And when we say asynchronous, what that means is that there's no pressure to watch that video. It's just, later on when you have time, you can consume that information in a way that makes sense to you. And so what we see is often you can kind of see the statistics on these, and it'll be maybe later at night. Put the kids to bed and then watch a couple of these videos that went up that day, and really like see what's going on. We also go back to email. There's definitely less email in our lives because of Slack, but we like to use email as almost a system of record, because sometimes when a decision is made in Slack, not everybody in the company was in that channel at that time or saw that. And so we like to go back and post that out and say, okay, here's the direction we're headed. Here's the summary. So we do use Slack heavily, but then we try to use these other communication tools as well.
We're heavy G Suite users as well. So we use, the collaborative side of document creation. Collaborative creation is a big part of everything we do. And I think back to that element of transparency, like everyone is used to working in a really collaborative digital way. And when we don't have ways to do that, you see our team go seek out new tools. It's, every great process may start in a spreadsheet, but spreadsheets aren't scalable. And I saw a great tweet the other day where someone's like, hey, every next generation SaaS startup, it is a spreadsheet in someone's company that they haven't automated yet. Like it's, and we're always on the hunt. And I think Loom's a great example of that. We're always on the hunt for a better way or for a better solution. And, why build when you could buy? And I think, the era of buy is accelerating. Build what really differentiates you and buy the things that help you accelerate.
And digging into a couple of these specific practices, I apologize for spending so much time here. It's so critical to some of the companies we've been working with. And frankly, it's a topic on some of the other panels as well. And we're all trying to figure it out. But digging into some of the specific processes, you mentioned things like all hands on a weekly basis. You mentioned the Slack bot that's connecting people to chat. What are some other innovative approaches to just your general business day that you guys have innovated on to spur some of this collaboration, some of the make it work?
One thing that John and I talk a lot is just about communication, and maybe over communication in a remote world. Like, even when as leaders, maybe we think we've said something a lot of times, but we probably haven't said it enough. And so we think to ourselves, if we have a message that we want everybody in the company to hear, and we really want to push the company in a certain direction, then we should be repeating that often, whether it's in Slack or whether it's in these in-person one-on-ones. Maybe we're not talking about work necessarily, but I can talk about some of these ideas. And so being very deliberate in your communication style is it's a non-technical thing, but it's something that we try to practice within our company.
I think in remote, you have to turn the empathy dial up to 11, because digital infrastructure has no tone, and it's really easy, depending on the person on the other side, to read it. You can read almost every message with positive and negative context, depending on how you feel or depending on how your day is. And that requires you as a leader and an individual to be like, okay, did that come out the way I wanted it to? Was that, and even if you feel like it didn't, it requires you to go back and be like, hey, I know I sent that message a couple hours ago. I was super busy. It may have come off as terse. I didn't mean for that. Just so that empathy dial at 11. I think another area, especially with remote, I think there's a lot of common practices around managing functions remotely. I'm going to manage a remote engineering team. There's tons published about that. I'm going to manage a remote sales organization, remote marketing team, remote customer journey. An area that is less published about is managing remote executive teams. And this is an area from a communication standpoint, I think you have to be really, really intentional. And it's, we're in the process of starting to think about formally implementing OKRs, because we're at the scale now where we think we operationally can do it. In the early days, we've always been very goal driven as a company, and we'd set goals, but the way we measured and communicated about goals was more ad hoc, because we were small enough to pull that off. But as you get bigger and more things are happening, keeping your leadership team really tightly aligned, everyone's super busy. So we've had to create very intentional collisions. Okay, every week we're going to dive deep into one function, and we're going to take an hour as a team and hear from one leader about what they're focused on and get to ask questions. Every week we're going to get together as a group and talk more tactically about things that are flying by day to day. Every other week we're going to talk to the extended leadership team and make sure they're up to speed on what's happening. And if you don't build that rhythm into the business, it will be very easy for your silos just to remain siloed. And kind of back to transparency, giving that transparency not only to the leadership team, but to everyone in the company, I think is so important. And just taking the time to figure out that rhythm in a remote world is extremely important.
Yeah, John's done an amazing job of building our remote leadership team. And, I think that's probably worth a session just in and of itself of some of the things he's done there. And that radical transparency is something that we preach, but it can be a double-edged sword sometimes, because anybody in the company can hop into our marketing channel and they can in Slack, and they can see everything that the marketing team is doing. They can see, what they did today. And in an office, you talk to the marketing people, but you don't know exactly what they did all day long. And so that transparency is really great, but it can also lead people to want to jump into something that's not exactly their function. Like, hey, marketing guys, I see you're doing it this way. Let me help you that way. And so we do have to bring things back sometimes and say, just because we have this transparency, it doesn't mean that your job changes. Like you get to see exactly what that team's doing, but you're an engineer, or you're this. And so it's a fine line to walk to create collaboration between all the teams and to really have this radical transparency, but to also keep people focused on their job and their spot in the company.
And I think one last thing on this topic that is still an area I think we have to work on is just feedback. Like I think getting the culture to be built really positively is amazing, but then you have to figure out, kind of back to that empathy dial turn to 11, how do you deliver feedback in a way that is positive and constructive? And that's hard. Feedback, we assume, is hard. Feedback, no matter what, is hard. And I think that's an area we all are continually working on, how to give one another feedback in ways that make sense. And I think that's an area we've done some enablement with our leadership team around, and we'll continue to try to practice to get better at.
I want to wind down here with a final question that I think is extremely unique to you guys. You have a singular insight into the new world of enterprise software sales, with your platform and your culture already. So from your perspective, will we be seeing the decline or maybe the end even of the traveling software salesperson? How does that role transition into this new ecosystem?
It's been interesting, because one of the core value propositions of our company is that you can take a channel sales system, and instead of it being like the third or maybe fourth thing that you develop at your startup, you can take that channel and maybe make it your first. So instead of going out and hiring really expensive enterprise salespeople, you could leverage a cloud marketplace as a primary sales channel. And so that's one of our core philosophies, and it's become something that we've started practicing, especially in this time of lockdown. We had like probably every software company, we had a big budget for our salespeople to travel around the country, and a big marketing budget for big marketing events and bringing people together, and all of that just got shut down. No more airplane tickets, no more bar tabs, and so we had to adjust, and we thought a lot about that, and like, hey, let's drink our own champagne a little bit. Let's try this. Let's see what we can do to maintain sales in a world where we can't send salespeople out to do in-person visits. And so far, it's worked out well for us. It's been a shift for everybody, for our sales teams, for our leadership teams, but it's been something that we've been able to maintain. I think after the lockdown, I do think that we will resume travel. We're not gonna cut it out forever. I think that there is definitely a benefit to it, but I could see us reducing our budgets pretty significantly from what they were pre-pandemic.
Yeah, maybe some other thoughts there. I do think like the nature of sales is changing, and as Dylan said, I think marketplace can be the road that salespeople and startups drive on, because where else do you get access to budget? Like the cloud budget is massive in most companies. Where else do you get access to a contract as a startup? You could say, hey, don't you just want to buy my software on your cloud bill? Like, you already have a contract. You don't have to go figure out how to get into their procurement system, which could take you a year in some crazy instances. So the roads to drive on marketplace, I think, will be really powerful. But I do think every company wants to be a product-led growth company. I mean, product-led growth is the in thing. And most enterprise B2B software is not that. Like, most software isn't Zoom, isn't Slack, where you can just start using it and then upgrade as you go. It requires a little more handholding. But what marketplace can be to those companies is that on-ramp to product-led growth. You can still get a SaaS kind of product-led growth experience, but then, kind of hand deliver your enterprise B2B software where you need to, or just make sure it has the level of handholding and care that it requires. And what that means to salespeople, I think over time, it's going to force all salespeople to deliver more value. This is not about relationship. And Gartner published some data where they said, 75% of buyers spend all of their time with digital content before ever contacting a company. And most of the time, by the time they're contacting a company, they already know what they want and are just trying to figure out what it would cost and how does that map versus the alternatives. And I think that in and of itself puts a lot on the content and marketing side of your business to be able to communicate effectively and engage with buyers in digital context. And that's going to require, by the time you get to a salesperson, you're probably really well educated. And that salesperson better be able to meet you where you are and take you to the next level from a solutioning standpoint. So I think there'll always be a role for sales, but the nature of sales will change.
Guys, this has been incredible. John and Dylan, our sincerest thanks for your participation in this panel and for your ongoing participation in and support of the Idaho startup ecosystem. To the attendees, thank you very much for tuning in. You can find both these gentlemen on their LinkedIn profiles. Guys, thanks again.